You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for December 9th, 2022. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we don't believe the reason Americans fought and died in 2 world wars was so Matt Taibbi and Barry Weiss could ogle Hunter Biden's dick pic revenge porn on Twitter. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
First Amendment.
First Amendment. What is the First Amendment? Yeah, because it says right in the First Amendment, the word Twitter is in fact mentioned 6 times in the Constitution.
So is dick pics and revenge porn.
Absolutely. It's all there. In fact, I think they make a passing reference to Matt Taibbi in the Constitution. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure he's wired in there somehow. Yeah, this is just an aggregation of the worst people in the world. Just really the most loathsome, radical centrist. We're contrarians. Who've gone way, way down the shitter.
Because being on Tucker Carlson pays.
I wonder sometimes. I really do wonder what the deal is. Because Barry Weiss is just appalling. And has always been this sort of snippy, appalled. You know what the real fascism's happening, Blue Gal? It's on college campuses. And
it's a cancel culture. Yeah.
And everyone knows Barry Weiss spent, her freshman, sophomore year trying to get a professor fired because she didn't like his position on Israel.
Yeah.
So she is immune to criticism. And so let's take this person, put her on the editorial board of the New York Times. And when people figure out that she's a fraud, she can flounce out of the room and go open, cancel culture university and hire Andrew Sullivan. That's
right. How long did that last?
Oh, I'm sure it's still going on, Blue Gal.
Oh my God.
We just don't know about it because of, First Amendment.
Cancel culture, First Amendment.
And, Matt Taibbi, God knows what Russians have on him for his fun-loving youthful days in Russia, abusing women and lying about it.
He was a horrible boss and apparently horrible to women and all kinds of things. So,
but somebody figured out, I remember him saying on Chris Hayes, because Chris Hayes, had all these people.
Oh, and Olbermann did too. Yeah. MSNBC had him on all the time.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Sure. Just like Greenwald.
But I remember Matt Taibbi saying something like, these guys on the right, fuck you for calling me a bad American. Fuck you for calling me a terrorist. How dare you? I'm a normal middle-class person. I have a wife and I have kids, et cetera, et cetera. And, it was that indignation of being called a monster by a fascist movement. And he is snuggled right up into the crotch of that movement. And I got to know how much of that is extorted or coerced.
Well, it's money. It's definitely money-based, whatever it is. Yeah.
How I cannot make enough money to put a roof over my head and live the life.
With my Substack,
writing about liberal shit. Because liberals never make any money doing anything.
Right.
And the only place to put my pen, guaranteed money, is where Greenwald put his and Barry Weiss put hers. So let's just do that. And there's no repercussions for it because, it's you got your sugar. And I do remember Matt Taibbi, this happened over the course of 2 weeks, applied to The Intercept. He actually, submitted his resume. There was a whole thing where he's going to go work for them. And then there was the thing where Glenn Greenwald's sugar daddy swooped down and said, what the hell are you doing? I mean, he gave him $250 million to start this thing up. Mm-hmm. And that's when I think he just lost his mind. Said, well, I'm king of the world now. I can do anything I want. And Matt Taibbi applied for a job with Glenn Greenwald, and it got shot down or mixed up, or the resume got eaten by a dog or something, who knows what, but that didn't work out. And they've always sort of been, for years, flowing down the same river to the same sewer. And now they're there, and we all get to read about it. But on a more positive note.
Yeah, we have some good news today and this week.
Yes, we do. We do. Yeah, we sure as hell do. Let's celebrate the good news. When you get it, put a hat on it and dance with it. That's what I say.
Yeah, Brittany Griner is coming home.
She is.
That is terrific news. That does not mean that other prisoners are ignored.
No.
Paul Whelan, we want him to come home too. This is not a zero-sum game to get one person home and no one else.
Right.
We are not interested in trading Brittany Griner for J6 prisoners in the DC jail.
Well, I don't know. I'm down with that. That's fine with me.
Oh, you mean you want to send them to Russia?
Yeah,
that's different.
Yeah.
No, this is some congressperson bitching about all this effort spent to get this communist basketball player home.
This anthem
when we're mistreating our own here in the States.
No, I mean, I have a bad habit, and I own it, and I celebrate it, which is when something extraordinarily good or positive happens, I celebrate it for a minute, and then I go over and watch Fox News just lose their minds over it. Then I come back. I don't dwell on it. Yeah. But there was a whole thing this morning about, what about other people? What about other prisoners? Huh, Brendan? Huh? What about them? And it was just like, they've been, this other guy, Mr. Whelan's been there for 4 years. Like, wait a minute, who was president 2 years ago again? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So your orange god did nothing about it. He was busy golfing. Is that the problem?
No, he couldn't spit Putin's dick out long enough to ask him for a favor. And that's something they don't want. This is the joy of remembering things.
Yeah, right.
Like, you remember who president was during most of the time that this guy was in Russia with his very, very good friend Vladimir Putin? You remember that, right? And the answer is, even the Twitter shit. It's, who was president in 2020, right? Who was the government in 2020? It wasn't Joe Biden. It was Donald Trump. So Joe Biden wasn't in any way
responsible for what the government did about Twitter at that point, or not.
But that's just, I mean, these smooth brain, simpletons just don't remember timelines at all. They just remember buzzwords.
Everything
and bad things.
The second the Democrat puts a hand on the Bible, the economy is terrible, everything's awful, and it's all his fault. Yep.
And all of Democratic history, all the terrible things that they imagine, all happened at once.
Yeah.
There's no actual sequence to anything. But speaking of people putting their hands on the Bible, I would like to invoke the mighty power of Bible Bitch to take us down a lovely road of a victory that we all enjoyed this week.
Yeah. Reverend Raphael Warnock won re-election to the Senate.
Yes, he did.
And it was a fascinating speech. I do recommend Googling Raphael Warnock full text victory speech and going and reading it, because he invokes God and his faith and his interest in religion and his being a preacher multiple times in the speech. But it is done in a way that does not exclude anybody who does not believe or who does not share his faith or does not share his religion or anything. And it is so clear that Raphael Warnock's witness of his faith is about serving others.
Yeah.
And that makes all the difference. Junior Dude and I were watching the speech. First of all, watching Junior Dude watch Steve Kornacki is hysterical.
Really?
Just hysterical, because Junior Dude knows the counties in Georgia almost as well as Steve Kornacki, knows what the ring counties are, that he knows what the congressional districts are. This is the amazing thing. Like, oh no, that congressman was indicted.
Well, don't tell him. Don't tell him, but we're getting him his own big board for Christmas.
No, we're not.
No, we're not.
So that's hysterical. But then when Raphael Warnock gave a speech, Junior Dude said, I'm really for separation of church and state, but I think electing pastors might be a good idea. And I said, whoa, be careful there.
Yeah, hold on there,
There's
Mr.
certain
Unitarian.
Pastors that are going to do the right thing in that arena. And there are certain pastors who are absolutely not going to do the right thing. And we certainly saw that this week as well in the floor debate in the House of Representatives over the Defense of Marriage Act.
Yes, we did.
Republicans crying over marriage when I think it's something like 22 of the Republicans in the House are divorced.
Yeah. Well, now they're going to be forced to be gay married. Everyone knows that.
Now all the divorced people are going to be forced to be gay married, and that's against marriage.
That's what makes me cry. I don't want. My clothes won't fit him. I don't know what to do, or her.
Yeah. So, but Warnock's speech is just terrific, And it is about serving others. Then,
well, I just want to say, and he
Yeah.
made it real explicit in his speech. One of the sentences jumped out at me. I don't have it right in front of me, but it was, and if you're not a person of faith, that's great too. Because
interestingly enough, that was not in his prepared remarks.
very cool.
That was ad-libbed.
Very
and
cool.
He said it because I'm sure he looked out in the audience and saw some of his agnostic atheist people working on his campaign.
Yeah.
And said, by the way, if you don't share that particular aspect of my, personality, personhood, values, whatever, there are other values that we share.
Yeah.
And I see you. That was the other. He sees the people in his state, and it is about service.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't subscribe to people looking at a speech like that and going, "Oh, presidential material!" All of a sudden, that's where everybody in TV news, cable news wants to go with that. And
they're all fanboys and fangirls, and they all want it.
They want a continual campaign because that's what pays the bills.
And it's the Marvel movie syndrome. And who's look? Let him be a senator for a minute, okay? let him be a wonderful.
He now has a 6-year term at long last, without having to campaign.
Yes.
And the other thing, though, about watching this coverage with Junior Dude is Junior Dude kept watching the numbers, and I finally walked away and went back to my office and wrote and did other things for 2 hours because we watched the English, didn't we? Was that the night we switched and started watching the English on Amazon Prime?
I think so.
Yeah, because you got to turn it off. The minute by minute, 50-50, 51-49.
Ooh.
Yeah, and Junior Dude just adores that, Right. Oh, he's up a point. He's up a half a point. 0.1. Like that, and timelines are Junior Dude's just obsession. Mm-hmm. So maps, timelines, things that you can look at to sort of, and still he hates statistics. So that's hilarious. Anyway, then we get to Carrie Lake and the on-air Newsmax prayer circle.
Oh, it was a glorious thing to see.
They're all have their eyes closed on air. It was the worst television for them to be sitting there with their multi-panel cable news layout, closing their eyes and praying to God not for leadership.
No.
Guide us to do the right thing. It was, we're doing the right thing because of you, Lord.
Avenge us.
Avenge us. Yeah.
Pull some votes out of your ass and let us win, okay?
Yeah.
And it was, you and Junior Dude were watching that today. And I told you, this reminds me of the story of the Man by the River, which, West Wing fans will be familiar with Carl Malden, where, the man is in by the river and the valley's filling up and he's like on his roof, and various people come along and offer him help in a boat, in a helicopter, on the radio, tell him to get out. He drowns, goes to heaven, bitches out God for not saving him. And God says, look, I sent you a radio and a guy in a canoe and a helicopter. What the hell are you doing here?
Yeah.
These people are not praying to make their base not crazy, or to have good candidates, or to stop lying, or anything like that. They're not praying
or to serve the public. We want to be a public servant here. So let us serve the public. Right. No.
They're praying to keep things exactly as they are, maybe make them worse.
And smite our enemies.
And squeeze out a few votes from a few more, cellar dwellers to put us in office and give us power in your name, Lord.
Yeah, right.
And I can think of nothing more profoundly anti-Christian than praying in public on a news network
quote unquote
personal power. That's the trifecta. That's the one like, nope, you get smote. That's it. Lightning bolt up your ass. Mm-hmm.
Well, and the opposite of Steve Kornacki at the big board was Bill Hemmer on Fox. And this video, go to crooksandliars.com. There's a search box at the top. Search for Bill Hemmer, and you will find this video. It's like 3 minutes long, of Bill Hemmer, who was clearly told, tonight you're going to do the Steve Kornacki bit. And we've got this big board. We've got a map of Georgia. You can touch screen it and look at counties.
you've clearly never used before in your life.
And you don't know and you don't care and you don't want to be there.
Right.
And he was like a 90-year-old guy watching Gunsmoke and trying to figure out which one is Festus.
Uh-huh.
He was just looking at, now, this shows, and he's pointing up at the corner, 93% of the vote in.
Oh, that's
and
a
then
lot
he
of
points
percent.
over to another number. Here's the difference. We don't know if Walker can make that difference up, but if we point on the map here, you can see the colors aren't changing much. And then he clearly gets someone speaking in his ear and says, now, we got this from the Associated Press. We're just quoting the Associated Press here, but the Associated Press says that Reverend Warnock has won. We're going by what the Associated Press. It's like the Fox News decision desk has been evaporated and turned into Tucker Carlson's dressing room.
Yeah,
they are never going to call a race against a Republican again for the rest of the existence of that network.
No,
because they got burned so bad being honest and saying that Joe Biden won Arizona.
Yeah. Well, and before that, by saying that Mitt Romney had lost.
Right. And Mitt Romney had lost in Ohio when Karl Rove had the numbers.
We've got the math. We've got the numbers. They're right here. And then you watch Megyn Kelly, sashay her ass down to the decision room.
In a white fuck me skirt.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a bunch of nerds will go, yeah, we can do math. I mean, this isn't really negotiable.
Yeah, she's talking to the decision people who are just calculating.
Yeah.
No, this is over.
Yeah, it's over. And everyone
and after 4 days of being promised that Romney was going to win in the landslide on that network, I mean, we talk about and laugh about this year, the red wave, the red wave, the red wave. The red wave predictions of this year were nothing compared to 2012.
No.
With Romney going to win in a landslide.
Sure, Romney's got it. Romney's got all the things. And Paul Ryan, the kid with the calculator and the
leadership in that man. Oh my goodness.
That's the future of the party right there. And
there.
That sure is.
Sure is. He's going to go home and be a lobbyist. Yes.
But it was clearly they have decided that they're going to target their broadcast to the angry mob out in the street waiting for them, going, wasn't us. AP did it. AP told us to do it. Yeah. We had nothing to do with this.
And immediately what happened right after that? Laura Ingraham and Molly Hemingway pitched a fit.
They did. And Kellyanne Conway.
And Kellyanne Conway. Against some imaginary Republican leadership.
Right.
That did this. It wasn't Herschel Walker. It wasn't Donald Trump.
No, it was Ronald McDonald.
Some very vague. I'm just tired of it. I'm tired of the Republican leadership not knowing how to win. It's like you had a wife beater for a candidate.
Right. And the guy who paid had it like a revolving credit card for abortions.
Right.
And with 9 you get a hoagie.
He got a hoagie for his abortions he paid for.
And then
in Georgia.
He holds up his abortion card on television and says, like Telly Savalas, hey kids, use the play abortion card. With 9 you get a hoagie. Like, this is your guy. And he's a moron. And he's got brain damage. And he can't form a sentence. And you nominated him because Donald Trump told you to. And Mitch McConnell did. And all the rest of you assholes went down there and pushed this guy. And now the official state propaganda network is all pissed at Mitch McConnell and Ronna McDaniel and other people like the donors and the establishment, as if nothing had changed in the last 4, 8, 10, 15, 20 years.
And now it's time to convince their base to vote early and vote by mail.
Oh God, that was the other piece of
after 4 years of after 4 years, literally, because Donald Trump said before the election, if I lose, it was stolen.
Oh, yeah.
So he's been pushing this since 2016, since 2015. If I lose, anytime I lose, it's stolen.
Right, period. And a funny thing happened on the way to this election was Charlie Kirk, the human thumb with a little scrim on his head, who was paid how much money? $30,000, $40,000 by our local GOP here.
Oh, yeah, $30,000.
Yeah, plus whatever else he got on the side, to come to town to spin up the crazies last year, lest you think that the GOP...
By the local Republican Party.
By the Sangamon County Republican Party paid him really good money to come to town and tell people give them the Charlie Kirk treatment to raise money and get them all excited about the election. And before that, it was Candace Owens. So lest you think the grassroots GOP here in the Midwest, here in the big blue state, no, we live in fucking Trump country down here.
They want celebrities. They want to pay big money to right-wing celebrities to come and speak.
Yeah. And that's what makes him happy. That makes him glad in the pants. So after Charlie Kirk spent months telling people the election's corrupted, it's all rigged, and that's his whole shtick. Yeah. He had to spend the first hour of his show Wednesday reading emails from his listeners who said they didn't vote in Georgia because they believe there's too much fraud, which is, guess where we learned it? You know where I learned it, Dad? I learned it from you, Dad. You told me the elections are corrupt, so I stayed home and watched football.
Right.
And I don't think that's entirely true because right now we begin the process of thrashing around the finding of scapegoats. Who's to blame? Well, I know who's to blame.
Because we don't have a rebranding strategy yet.
Not yet.
That's the whole. They are flailing, looking for someone to blame, looking for a scandal to pin on Joe Biden.
Yep.
I got to say, from what I've heard, I haven't seen those pictures and I don't want to, but from what I've heard, the size of, Hunter Biden's junk is a scandal.
Yes. Well, yeah. When you are in the small penis party, I would imagine it is a scandal. Yeah. Well, what's that thing? Oh my God! They make him in that size. Why wasn't I told? It's just it. But the irreducible problem that you and I have talked about on this podcast, on our No Fair Remembering Stuff episodes, is that the base is the base, man. This is
your party. You have to work with what you got.
There's no other Republican Party waiting in the wings to come sweeping in and be reasonable and take you back to whatever.
And say, "Oh, Jack Kemp, you're our guy."
Yeah, Kemp, he's my guy. and no, there is no such thing. And however much you paw through the pile of shit that you created, there is no fucking pony in there. It's just the base you built, and the base you built wants Trump or wants something that tastes just like Trump. And this is traceable. And I wrote about this years ago. Ronald Reagan was their first dose of pure cocaine and champagne. That was the first, holy shit, we can vote for this guy? We can vote for a lunatic? We can vote for an actor who tells us how great we are? And they have they've been chasing that high ever since. Yeah. And they chased it through Bush the first and Bush the second. And anytime someone comes along and offers them methadone, offers them some middle ground, offers to compromise, look, we'll give you half of what you want. That person is a communist who must perish in the fires of hell. It was Clinton, then it was Obama, and now Joe Biden. And there's I switched over during a bit of the coverage, and they were pimping the Tucker Carlson documentary, Biden Incorporated.
Oh God!
And the root of all evil, all caps. They're trying to find bigger font on Fox to talk about Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's penis.
They need some sort of 3-syllable word like cylinder or Benghazi to repeat 1,300 times in 1 year that will convince their base, their viewers, that we have to fight this existential evil on the left. And they haven't found it yet. I mean, the Hunter Biden laptop is not, as one person on Fox says, this is not the smoking gun we're looking for.
Too many syllables. Hunter Biden.
And they peaked it too early.
Right. Well, they branded it wrong. It's Hunter Biden's dick.
Yeah.
Biden dick. Hunter Biden's dick. That's the scandal. There's a penis out there with a picture, and we need to see it. And that's why we hired Glenn Greenwald and Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi and Elon Musk. Gave them, I don't know what inducement to go after. And just these people, I do understand them. That's my problem. I really do understand how progressively they have gotten more deranged to the point where they really think they're going to stand in the State House doors screaming that their First Amendment rights were violated because they can't look at Hunter Biden's penis. Online.
Yeah.
And and that is why we lost the election.
Yeah, right.
And that's why millions of Americans died for nothing in two world wars.
Penis pics on Twitter aren't allowed in a general way anyway. No. Period.
But that's the part where we on the left fall down. let me explain to you the reason why. No.
No.
You can talk to them about the First Amendment or the Second Amendment or any amendment
And try to explain it, and that doesn't work.
You're
Yeah.
talking to a hamster that's on crack. They don't understand anything. The words coming out of your mouth don't make any sense to them. Charlie Kirk makes sense to them. Candace Owens makes sense to them. Donald Trump makes a whole lot of sense to them, and they have nothing to build on except this wretched pile of bigots and imbeciles that they very carefully assembled and brainwashed over the decades.
Mm-hmm.
So, however the rebranding goes, I don't think that you can rebrand the base. I think instead they're going to be rebranding the pundits and the elite, which you're seeing already, which is wasn't us, had nothing to do with us, it ain't us. And
here's the problem is that any reform that they take to bring normalcy back to their candidates without addressing structural change to money in politics isn't going to work, because there's just too much financial incentive for crazy people to run for office for attention, and attention turns to dollars. That's why Carrie Lake is still on television praying with her eyes closed.
Yeah.
Every day she's on television, she can raise more money. She can raise more, speaking engagements at CPAC. She'll be on with General Flynn at his Jesus blah blah blah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and the dirty secret, which is no secret at all to anyone on the left, is that governing is entirely secondary to the Republican Party.
Absolutely.
They'd like to have a majority in the Senate so they could impeach Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell could go out on, as a leader, but they don't need that. All they need is enough sugar to pour in the tank of everyone else.
Right.
All they need is to be able to monkey wrench anything anyone else does and make liberals cry. They don't care if their base dies. They don't care about opioids. They don't care about Medicare. They don't care about the environment. They don't give a shit about any of that. They care about what their base cares about. And what their base cares about is going to their graves in air-conditioned comfort, knowing that liberal out there somewhere is suffering. And that's the only principle they have. And so you get candidates who are modeling that behavior, who will promise to deliver that for them. And every now and then they make a mistake and they have to pick up their base like an Etch-a-Sketch and shake them so they don't remember what I just said, because what I just said is kind of embarrassing based on what I'm about to say. And that happened with Trump this week.
Yep.
But I was reminded of all the way back in May of 2011, during the before time, during the good old days.
This is a time to sit back and absorb all of Drift Glass's
put your feet up, put your feet up, crack a beer, whatever you got, pour one out from me. And just remember that before 2016, everything was great. Republicans were awesome. Bipartisanship was the law of the land. Everyone on right-wing talk radio was preaching peace, love, extend your hand to liberals because they're just like you and me. They're just people. You got to love them, got to hug them. And so we're going to go back to May of 2011 when Newt Gingrich, remember him, attempted to reboot the reprogrammable base when he said, any ad which quotes what I said Sunday is a falsehood. Yes.
I distinctly remember that. You can't put what I said in an ad. I'm telling you not to. It was flat out because Paul Ryan gave him a call.
Right. Said, what the hell are you doing?
You don't get to tell us that we're engaged in right-wing social engineering.
No, of course not. Remember, at the time, he was a presidential candidate.
Yeah.
Because that's who they were, and that's who they are. He said that anyone who used a direct quote from his Sunday interview about Paul Ryan's plan to dismantle Medicare is lying. Mm-hmm. Quote, I don't think right-wing social engineering is any more desirable than left-wing social engineering. Gingrich had told, guess who? David Gregory on that Sunday. I don't think imposing radical change from the right or the left is a very good way to blah, 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 suck my dick, Newt Gingrich. And the reason, just as a brief aside, the reason Newt Gingrich didn't end up on the ash heap of history is because of David fucking Gregory. Personally and specifically, David Gregory used Meet the Press to keep rehabilitating Newt Gingrich's career over and over again. And no one knows why he decided to do that, but that was one of his personal projects. Now, jump ahead to December 3rd, 2022. This month, this year, Donald Trump, and I can't really pronounce the all caps that he puts in here or the many spelling errors, but you'll bear with me. So with the revelation of massive and widespread fraud and deception, and working closely with big tech companies, the DNC, the Democratic Party,
He said Democrat Party.
Democrat Party. Don't correct me, woman. How dare you? Do you throw the presidential election results of 2020 out and declare the rightful winner? Or do you have a new election? A massive fraud of this type and this magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution our great founders did not want and would not condone false, fraudulent elections. And then he follows up with all caps, unprecedented fraud requires unprecedented cure. 3 days later, December 6, 2022. The fake news is actually the fake news is actually trying to convince the American people that I said I wanted to terminate the Constitution. This is simply disinformation, lies, just like Russia, and all the other hoaxes and scams. And disinformation is misspelled because he's also illiterate. And why not? Because telling the Republican base you didn't hear what you just heard or see what you just saw is how Republicans get elected. So however deranged Trump behaves, there's a hardcore of people who are hardcore lifestyle addicts, and all you need is 30% to destroy the primary process. That's all you need. You need a third of the voters to march out and say, Trump or we burn this fucker down. And that's it. And so he has the power to destroy the GOP, and by God, he's going to do it.
We've had some feedback from No Fair Remembering stuff, and thank you so much for sending ideas for future shows. I think our next one's going to be Joe Scarborough. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we wanted to say, too, that some topics that you're sending in are so huge that you think the David Brooks series was long. If we were to do a Ronald Reagan series, just remember that wonderful book, The Invisible Bridge by Rick Perlstein about the Reagan years. It clocks in at 800 pages. And the audiobook is 39 hours.
Yeah. And it's great.
And it's great. And that is a No Fair Remembering Stuff experience for Reagan. If you want that is, we did it. We listened to it and it's excellent. So, but we're not going to do a 39-hour series of podcasts on Ronald Reagan and his entire thing.
But Iran-Contra, for example.
Yeah, we might do. We want to give you that feedback, that when you're thinking about topics you'd like to hear about, think about it's the No Fair Remembering Stuff. We like to clock those at 30 to 45 minutes long. Yeah, and tell a story.
And a couple, three of them can go together. Honestly, this is stuff that just got swept down the memory hole.
Mm-hmm.
So things that happened, 2 months ago, don't really qualify. Right. They're in this is the reason we have this podcast, is we're telling you what is in the process of being erased from the public mind.
Right.
But it's not really forgotten, and it's not really a sin to remember the things that happened 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So those are our broad outlines, but we really appreciate the feedback. There's been a lot of it. We really enjoyed our conversations digitally with you guys, and you guys have great suggestions. And like Blue Gal said, next one's probably going to be Joe Scarborough. I'm sure there'll be an Iran-Contra. I'm sure there'll be a Newt Gingrich. Somebody has said George Will. There's lots of people out there and things out there that need to be contextualized in history that have been really a concerted effort. Bill Kristol's going to be one of them.
Oh, yeah.
A really concerted effort has been made to decontextualize their existence and recast them in roles that they have absolutely no business being in. And that's sort of our wheelhouse. And so far, again, I've been listening pretty carefully. I haven't heard anybody else doing this. So
no, not in this way.
Although
we may very well have an advertiser, a podcast advertising on our show soon.
Yep.
And I'll talk more about that when we get that all worked out. But it's a progressive podcast, and I think you'll enjoy it.
And thank you to the 170 people who sent me an email saying, have you checked out this If Books Could Kill podcast about David Brooks?
Two people wrote to me, and I think 170 wrote to you.
And they were all like, this is great. You should listen to this. And I agree. It was a wonderful podcast. They're like...
It was on Bobo in Paradise? Was that
Bobo's in Paradise. It's their third episode. I listened to their episode today. They're doing like short teasers episodes. They've done 4 episodes, just to be clear.
Wow.
And this last one is going to be about Barry Weiss.
Oh my goodness.
I think they're like, we can't do entire books all the time. So we're going to do the sort of shitty centrist equivalent of a book, which is op-ed pages and people who
I haven't listened yet. Is it a quality effort? I mean, is the podcast a quality effort? Good.
Well, and here's the thing that made me laugh. It was these two guys whose premise is there's these books out there with terrible ideas in them, and we should tear them apart.
Yeah, cool.
And I agree. And they were like, we're going to do like a few and see how they were or whatever. And so we did one episode, and it was #1 on Apple Podcast and blew past Rachel Maddow, and we got 10 million. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? Well,
yeah, really.
It's a first of all, the title is great, but if books could kill, very clever title. They're affable and engaging and well read, both of them. But it was, we hoped for like 10,000 listens, and then it went to like a jillion. I'm like, man,
are they with iHeartRadio or anything? Are they signed up with any?
I'm pretty sure. I'll do more research on them. I enjoy.
They must know somebody to have gotten 10,000 listens the first week. I mean,
they got millions of listens the first week.
Oh, come on.
They would have been satisfied with 10,000, but they got and they jumped over.
There's somebody. They know somebody. That's not. Well, that doesn't just happen.
They got promoted, I'm sure, by groups, and that's good for them. They
good
put
for
on
them.
A quality
Yes,
product.
no, I think that's great.
Damn, we're on episode 670 something.
But you know what, Drift Glass? I found out.
What'd you find out?
We are in the top 3% of Buzzsprout podcasts in terms of traffic. So we got something
fine.
Going for us.
We're doing fine.
We've been Buzzsprout. We've been at Buzzsprout for 11 years. That's part of it. Is we've been here so long.
And 10 million listens per podcast would be just too much. It's just too much.
Too many listens.
Too many listens. We wouldn't know what to do with all the listens. So
I think we would.
Yeah, I think we would.
But that's okay. We're happy in our kitty corner.
We're still doing what we love to do, and we're still enjoying each other's company.
And we're so grateful to you guys. I want to thank the listeners who wrote to me with a new Patreon donorship of $5. Most of them this week were $5, saying want to help out with the fact that your health insurance costs have gone up. And it's like I was saying that not as a toss away. I was saying it in the context of talking quite passionately about Brian Kemp and expanding Medicaid in Georgia. But you guys listened to me say that and responded, and I'm just very humbled by that. Thank you. Drift Glass, let's do a news roundup.
Ooh, I've heard those are big crowd pleasers and get us maybe millions of listens. So let's dive right in. After you, Blue Gal.
The Bidening continues. Alan Dershowitz and other counsel for failed Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake were sanctioned for making false and unsupported assertions in a lawsuit seeking to change the state's voting mechanisms ahead of the 2022 election. Did she try panda poop is what I want to know. Judges love it when you waltz into court and just say, stop the steal,
right.
with no evidence.
It's right up there with, I'm a sovereign citizen. Here's my paperwork.
I'm a sovereign citizen. I don't recognize this court's ability to put me in jail. You're going to jail.
Yeah. First thing they teach you in judge school is sit your silly ass down.
Yeah.
So, yeah. This is my room.
No, I think it's, does this defendant have counsel?
Yes.
Approach the bench.
I'm representing myself. Really? Maybe, is there another answer you would like to give to that question? Okay, let's party. The Florida Republican who sponsored the Don't Say Gay in a bill was indicted on COVID relief fraud charges. Shocking. A federal grand jury indicted Republican Florida State Representative Joe Harding on 6 counts after authorities say he illegally obtained $150,000 in pandemic-related small business loans by allegedly using the names of 2 dormant companies. Womp womp.
This podcast never applied for any COVID relief.
And we feel like fools. I tell you, we just because
we have 2 employees and
right.
our business was enhanced rather than. I mean, I hate to say that, but podcast did well during the pandemic. Obviously, did well during the pandemic because people had time to listen to things.
And we're using the same setup we used 10 years ago during the pandemic, which is
the donated microphones
and
2 old laptops
and me
from
sitting
the
with
used
my head in the
laptop store down the street.
Right. And it works. So why mess with it?
I mean, we're very grateful for the technology. This is the other thing though. I mean, I'm all over the place. I'm sorry about that. But the difference between Steve Kornacki's big board and Fox News's big board was, and Junior Dude said this, Steve Kornacki's big board has 5 or 6 really skilled tech people behind it, programming it, making sure when he touches a county, the county comes up. Steve Kornacki doesn't have to know all the counties, Mom, because when he touches a county, the name comes up. It's like, yeah, unlike you, Junior Dude, he doesn't have to know them all.
No, but Hemmer's
no, but I'm just grateful for all the tech in podcasting that has come out.
Oh yeah,
we use Buzzsprout, we use Zencaster, we use something that isn't supported anymore called Levelator that cleans up our audio. Yeah. There's just such an advance since we started in 2010 doing this. To make you sound good, to make it easy to edit and put out, and welcome aboard to anybody that wants to try it, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Podcast, there's enough room for everybody.
There absolutely is. Lawyers for Governor Ron DeSantis were forced by the court to define woke.
Oh, no.
The lead lawyer then described it as, quote, the belief that there are systemic injustices in American society and the need to address them.
Yeah.
And so everybody sort of went, and you're against that, huh? Oh.
Yeah, because Florida. Yeah. Everything is woke now. That's another, that's a buzzword that just doesn't mean anything anymore. It means what it means, but it's just something that you hang on anybody you don't like on the from the right.
I'm sorry. It's a way that right-wingers can say the N-word.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows you're talking about those people. When you're in a right-wing or audience and you say, we're tired of all this woke stuff.
Right. Or the race traders who are white, who are, on their side. This is via Norman Ornstein, who knows what it was like to be canceled. Sure as hell knows what it was like to be really canceled. As expected, not a single mention on the front page of the Washington Post or the New York Times of a former president calling for the shredding of the Constitution to illegally seize the presidency. To quote the Post, democracy dies in darkness.
Yeah, isn't that somewhere on their masthead? I think it is.
Yeah.
Fox News cuts ties with Laura Trump, which is great news for Chris Cillizza's podcast.
Yeah.
Because they can do some sort of point-counterpoint thing.
Yeah, Laura, you ignorant slut. Yeah, I won't lie. If Chris Cillizza and Laura Trump had a podcast, I would listen.
He would. He would put it in his pocket and have it blaring through the kitchen.
Honey.
While he was loading the dishwasher, he would have it blaring in his pocket.
I'd cut in while you were typing something up and go, oh, you have to listen to this.
You have to listen to this part.
There needs to be someone out there, and there's 4 of us, I think, who actually listen to what people on the right who aren't Newsmax are saying about, because they're kind of the ones who are inside the perimeter. And
I kid about that, but Driftglass, I feel so blessed to be married to you.
Oh, me too, honey. I feel my smartest decision I ever made. Marry the smart one, boys. Marry the smart and sexy one.
Ooh.
A New York jury convicts the Trump organization on all counts, including scheme to defraud, conspiracy, and tax fraud. 2 important takeaways from this. 1, this likely spells the end of the Trump organization. That's what they said about the Death Star, and yet 2 movies later.
I'm waiting for them to call it Tish James Tower.
Yeah, it sits right on Black Lives Matter Boulevard.
Black Lives Matter Boulevard, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And 2, this increases the odds of a New York prosecution of Trump himself, given that the prosecution argued, quote, evidence shows Trump explicitly okayed the tax fraud. He's a criminal. He's a criminal 1,000 times over.
44 Senate Republicans voted against services for pregnant and postpartum veterans.
And they're trying to choke off the funding of the military over anti-vax madness.
Yeah.
Which is, even people who are like, on the fence, like, no, that's fucking crazy. That's crazy. I mean,
we don't need a military that's on ventilators in the field.
No. And if you talk to anyone who has ever been in the military, ask them, were you allowed to just decide what you wanted to do and not what you wanted to do? And no. Well, did they tell you that? But yeah, they tell you that right up front. That
You're going to drop trow and get 30 shots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now you're going to get 31. And Marsha Blackburn thinks we should shut the military down because of that.
Yeah.
Because
she's such an idiot.
Well, I'm not sure how stupid
and she's
she
being
is.
told to say that.
Right, exactly.
By Kevin McCarthy's comms people, because she doesn't have any original thought in her head.
No. Well, and they
I
know
hate to say that.
This is the once again, the irreducible problem of the GOP base. You have to tell them lies like this or they'll lose their shit and start murdering people.
No, you need to have some sort of battle against modern society. Your battle needs to be against modern society.
Hey, speaking of which, 208 House Republicans voted against the citizenship for non-citizen U.S. military. Why do they hate the military?
You're willing to fight for the U.S. flag. You're willing to... Man, I just can't.
Yeah.
Representative Andy Biggs is, quote, running to replace Kevin McCarthy as House Speaker and break the establishment.
Break that establishment. Andy Biggs, show me the establishment. Show me on the doll where the establishment hurt you. Because I don't know who the fuck the Republican establishment is anymore, except it's Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson. So if that's who you're talking about, more power to you, young man. Sherrod Brown was not wearing a professional left, both sides don't t-shirt when he said this, but he might
should
as well
have been.
He shut down Jake Tapper when Jake Tapper attempted to both sides the rail workers strike. He explained to Jake Tapper which party voted against sick days for railroad workers and which party voted for them.
Right. And that video is at crooksandliars.com also.
Dude, are you affiliated with Crooks and Liars?
I'm affiliated with them. Yes, I am.
Okay. All right.
During the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony, here's another video you should watch. It's also at crooksandliars.com. During the Congressional Gold Medal ceremony for January 6th police, representatives of those receiving awards shook hands with Chuck Schumer and then blew right past Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah, it was a great moment in American history.
Brian Sicknick's mother has had it.
Yeah.
And she's right to have had it.
Just told them to fuck right off. And they had their hands hanging out there waiting for that grip. And they said, no, not you.
Not doing it.
Not you traitors. No. A federal judge has ordered former top Trump White House lawyers, Pat Cipollone and Pat Philbin, the two Pats, to provide additional grand jury testimony in the sprawling Department of Justice criminal probe of efforts to overturn the 2020 election, rejecting Donald Trump's executive privilege claims.
And Pat Cipollone really likes his $400 and $700 suits.
He does. He
so he's going to go and cooperate with the grand jury.
Oh, honey, those aren't $400 suits.
You think those are $1,200 suits?
I think those are $4,000 suits.
Oh.
Yeah, no.
They make them that expensive, huh?
Oh, let's go shopping.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
For bespoke suits. Let's you and I go shopping.
Well, bespoke, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tailored, right?
Yep.
Liz Crokin, a prominent adherent of the QAnon and Pizzagate conspiracy theories. Guess where she went?
Oh,
she went to Mar-a-Lago and posted photos with former so-called President Donald Trump. And she also spoke at an event hosted at the club. I'm telling you, that is the key. Herschel Walker spent $35,000 of campaign money for one party at Mar-a-Lago. That's how you get Trump's endorsement. It is the same as when he was in the White House, charging, rack rate plus $1,000 to the Secret Service. It's all about putting money in his. If you put money in his pocket, you pay him a bribe, and he'll be your friend. And it doesn't matter if you're Pizzagate. You had a party at my hotel and put money in my pocket.
That's right.
Of course, I'm going to have my picture taken with you. That's an additional service for fee that you get at Mar-a-Lago.
They tell you there's no fascism in the champagne room, but if you come with enough cash, you can have all the fascism in the champagne room. You can have all the
fascism you want at Mar-a-Lago. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. By the way, the event came 2 weeks after Trump had dinner in Mar-a-Lago with that rapper man named Kanye West, who recently spoke positively about Hitler, and far-right YouTuber Nick Fuentes, who the Department of Justice has labeled a white supremacist. This Kanye person has a messianic complex.
Yeah,
and is mentally ill.
I agree with Keith Olbermann. I'm just done. I don't care.
You're done. Yeah.
He's nuts. He's just nuts. And he's, he can take all of this money and pile it up in front of his house and set it on fire and then dance around it naked, I wouldn't care. I mean, and there is nobody. This is the problem of being far enough up the food chain, having enough money that you can just have nobody around you who can stop you.
Right.
Who can put their arm around you and say, maybe you steer away from the Hitler stuff. And, this is, I'm sorry, but this is his fault, and he brought it on himself, and now he gets to crash and burn. And good. I remember people burning records of the Dixie Chicks because they said a few mean words about George Bush, who had it fucking well coming.
Yep.
So please don't hug me with your fond memories of when Kanye wasn't crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care. Don't give a shit. He's a singer. He blew it. That's the end of the story. In local news, this year's Satanic Temple display at the state capitol features a tasteful knitted serpent draped around a book sitting atop a bowl of knitted apples and other fruits.
And I did not knit any of that.
No, I think that was a mistake. Yeah. I think they should have called upon you, but maybe next year, honey. Maybe next year
they'll ask me to knit some satanic things for the satanic Christmas display.
And you know why that display's there, right?
Yeah, well, because there's a creche.
Yeah.
And so, there's nativity scenes. And so equal time, Satanists said, if you're going to put that on the State House steps, we want to have ours. And so they said, okay.
We take that no state religion shit seriously.
Mm-hmm.
We really do. And that means if you've got a religion and you'd like to put up a thing, come on down.
Each week we post to our Facebook page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty, however, is a fish.
Oh.
A glorious blue betta fish named Idris Elba.
Okay. All right.
Distinctly in honor of the actor, I will say.
As opposed to the many other Idris Elbas that are out.
Idris Elba insult fish out there. Right, this one is to honor Idris Elba. And of course, Idris Elba eats freshly poured fish food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your fish will make a grumpy face at you and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Idris Elba, a fish who we have been told, Driftglass, is very selective as to the people he likes and dislikes. And you can tell from if you walk up to his tank whether he likes you or not. If he doesn't like you, he will just kind of look at you in a mean way. He is at our Facebook page and website. You can send your internet kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. And that email, by the way, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, that lands in both of our email boxes individually. So we get the message. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Go Postal Unions. What a busy time of year for them. We're behind you, Postal Unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Don't forget our gourmet coffee guideline. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage for yourself, buy one for us. This is not charity. This is our job. There's a number of you out there that support this podcast with a contribution. And Tammy said, don't say 1% anymore because you're a little higher than that. I said, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we appreciate it. See our website, proleftpod.com, for details. We've got PayPal, postal address information. Our Patreon is there. If you love No Fair Remembering stuff, if you love us to have 2 episodes a week, become a Patreon before the end of the year. We would really appreciate that. All of the links are there at proleftpod.com. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to.
Yeah, whoever's
that way we can get up to that 10 million listeners, you know.
If you know at least 4 of the million people who are listening to If Books Could Kill, ask them to listen to us too. Just, as a bookmark, if you will.
Yeah, as a bookmark. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting our show. Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties say, suck it, Good Morning America. The hosts of the Professional Left podcast have been sleeping together for years.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license, copyright 2022, BGBG Productions Incorporated.